Rupert Bell is here, Talks Royal Correspondent. Front page of The Sun today. It says Air Miles Andy cleared for takeoff. So, will we be seeing him back working again? Rupert, very good morning to you.
I don't think we'll see him back working. Good morning, Mike. I don't think that's going to be on the agenda for some time, because while he's never been found guilty, it's obviously by association with Jeffrey Epstein, and obviously that infamous interview sort of left him out in the cold by his own actions. So I'm not sure there is any rush to get him back into the public fold. Obviously, the FBI investigation into whatever links with Jeffrey Epstein and seems to have been put on hold on a wider scale, not just around Prince Andrew. So I'm sure lots of other people might be breathing a bit of a huge sigh of relief. Somehow it has now been brushed back under the cover. But for Prince Andrew, he still is, I think, in the eyes of the British public, persona non grata. So, yes, it might mean he'll be able to travel and go abroad again. I think he's had one trip in recent times where he flew on a private jet to Bahrain, I'm led to believe. So it might mean that he can get out of and not be stuck in the royal lodge. Right. But I do think there is a sense of exasperation within the royal family with him as a whole, because he's very much sees things his own way. There's no sense of mea culpa necessarily from him. He is convinced by his rightness at times.
Yes, well, I was going to say, you know, knowing him as you do, and we all kind of have a view of him, and, you know, he's not, shall we say, imbued with a great deal of humility, is he, by the sounds of him? And I imagine he would quite like to make this a point of principle, to say, look at me, I never did anything wrong in the first place, so now I'm going to start pushing my way out into more sort of sociable events and possibly being more visible. Maybe not quite getting air miles around the world and playing golf tournaments in Dubai, but I would expect him to try and prove a point, wouldn't you?
What I probably want to do is try and generate some money and an income, because of with his business links. But those business links have often caused him to get himself into a bit of a pickle, and that's where he's got to be very careful. And you know, there are talks of he's been involved of consultancy. He presumably has a very extensive contacts book, so people might think that that's bringing people together and that's a way that he could earn money. But in terms of being a working member of the royal family and being back out on the road and supporting his brother, that's not going to happen. We'll probably see him at the sort of major semi-private public events like Christmas and maybe one or two other occasions. That might be easier for him to be seen in public. But actually in a working capacity, that at the moment that is just not on the agenda. The King is not ready, I don't think, to offer him an olive branch and say, we need you back out on the road. Because actually, more importantly, he may say that, but does the public want him to be representing the royal family? And that's the balancing act here, right. Because if he's going out and about doing things, but actually he's not going to actually be that welcome by whatever organisation it is, what's the point of putting him back out on the road again?
Well, that's right. And I guess it also depends as well on what the King's view of him is, and perhaps even William.
I think there's a sense of frustration with him, that he doesn't ever seem to read the room. I think that's part of the problem. There are two members of the royal family who are in that situation, and it may be that because their arrogance has got them into this situation. Yeah. So for Air Miles Andy, it might be, you know, he might get to bronze level rather than a gold card. So
well, we shall see. Let's talk about Wimbledon, because you might remember the conversation we had last week about progress, right? And how great it was going to be that the line judges had been done away with, right? I was there actually on Saturday, had a lovely day. It was fantastic. I still can't quite explain why the disembodied voice comes out and says fault. And it was clearly a male voice when I was at centre court, and the umpire was female, so it was obviously some kind of AI projected voice. But let's have a look at the moment when somebody apparently switched off the automatic line call system.
Stop.
Yeah, Pavlyuchenkova was waiting for a call here. I think. Yeah, she's saying that it missed by a way.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going want to just quickly check if the system was up and running, because there was no audio call for this ball on the base.
So we did hear the system say stop, stop. So we need confirmation here.
Well, this is a first, isn't it, with the electronic line calling?
Yeah. Mayday, Mayday. The system's not working. There's your progress. There's your progress for you.
Oh, this was red. Oh, this was manna from heaven for you, Mike.
Absolutely.
It? It was like, you're in a happy moment here. The AI goes absolutely belly up. But as a result of human error, there are a lot of. It's obviously a new system. Now you hear both voices, depending on where the line call is. You occasionally hear a women's voice or everything, but that's just to actually give spectators and TV viewers a sense when you hear out, even though it may be a disembodied voice. So that is all fine. But when the machine wasn't switched on in a certain part of the court, but actually where you find it, so the protocol and where we're going with AI, yes, there will always be an element, and some players even think, with AI, it's not 100% accurate.
Well, that's the problem. And you know what I thought, actually, as well, just as a general principle, that I thought was missing, apart from the fact that it looks a bit barren without the line judges. You miss the drama of the challenge to the call. Because the thing that people quite liked was the call would be challenged, the line judge would make the call, the umpire would go to Hawkeye, and then they'd throw it up on the screen, and there would be a bit of a slow clapping thing going on, and it was quite a drama. That's all gone now.
Yes, and look, having seen it and feeling it, it does give a more soulless feel, and you don't get now players. They're trying to take out the sort of drama and say, right, you've signed up, players have signed up for this, you have to accept what is going on here. Right. Technology. What should have happened, and what you don't understand, is that ball was so far out in that match.
It was about a foot out, wasn't
it? And why doesn't the umpire just, the umpire then is just sitting there as reading a computer screen. He's not actually doing his job. Does he not have the position to actually say, if he thinks something's out, in that case, it was so far out,
right? Why
can't he just say, it's out.
Just call it out. Because would it not have? It changed the course of the game as well, didn't it?
Yes, but it didn't change the end of the match.
It didn't. No, but it could have done though.
It absolutely could have done. But fortunately for Sonic Hotel, she was outplayed that day.
Right.
And Pavlyuchenkova, obviously played some brilliant tennis. But it's a system, and obviously fallout since of it is. Now we know that the operators of it, it clearly someone didn't switch something.
Someone switched it off, apparently, right?
Yeah, well, or didn't turn it on. Whatever, brushed accidents. It's like all these things. We complain about VAR in football, and this is still a work in progress. I am sure Wimbledon will be reviewing how it's gone. What do they need to improve certain procedures? Is it as accurate as we want it to be? They do put up close call on the screens and show people what's going on the main courts if there is a line, a ball is close to the line, in or out. But I still think it does. It definitely is a more soulless vibe around the main courts, that you haven't got that human interaction. But unfortunately, Mike, it's progress, and it's what the players want. And it happens at every tournament, except Roland Garros doesn't have it for some reason. They said, no, we'll stick to what we have, because supposedly on clay it's easier to see if a ball is in and out. But elsewhere, it is now standard practice for tournaments to have it all done by this artificial intelligence situation. But
well, thankfully,
I'm sure on Saturday you were sitting there, hey, it's messed up. I bet you were. It was like manna from heaven.
It was. I did say to Christian, we've got to get Rupert Bell on. We've got to talk about this. Yeah, which we've now done. I also want to be clear that many traditions are still good, though. Yeah, there was quite a lot of Pimm's and champagne drunk on Saturday, and I was told I had a very loud voice by the men who were in charge of security, and I was asked to keep quiet at one point.
Well, there's a surprise.
I know.
Luckily you weren't extracted from the grounds.
No, thankfully, no, thankfully not. But anyway, listen, Rupert, thank you very much indeed. Let's not try any more progression for a while, because until we get it right, I think that's probably a bad idea.